The Rue du Faubourg Saint-Honoré still smelled faintly of last night's rain when Élode Moreau unlocked the curved glass doors of Maison Moreau Parfum. She arrived before dawn once every 29.5 days, when the full moon lingered just long enough to turn the pale facades silver. Customers assumed she came so early because that was the hour when jasmine shipped from Grasse still carried the coolness of the fields. Elodie let them believe the romance. The truth, kept between her and a battered almanac, was far stranger. The shop's back room resembled an alchemist's cave. Columns of vials leaned toward each other like conspirators, each labeled in Elodie's precise copperplate. Orris, benzoin, wild fig, tears of labdanum solidified on linen. Beneath them sat 4 ceramic bowls painted with the phases of the moon. She selected the bowl adorned with a perfect white disk. 1 drop of Bulgarian rose, 2 of wormwood, and a shard of dried sea salt clinked against porcelain. As she ground them with a jade pestle, the room inhaled. It always felt that way, the air growing thick, expectant, until scent became doorway. When she lifted her face, light fractured around her like water catching sun. She stepped forward, and the back room receded. Cobblestones formed underfoot, glistening with horse dung and the runoff of 19th century Paris. She smelled tallow candles, river mud, and cheap gin, a fetid bouquet unmistakably 1832. Somewhere, a child shouted in the argot Victor Hugo had tried to corral into print, a pistol discharged in the distance. Elodie had done this dozens of times. Memories hers, someone else's, arrived like manuscripts whose authors were long gone. She never stayed more than a minute or two, fearful that her body in the present might crumple on the parquet while her consciousness loitered somewhere centuries away. So she trained herself to treat memory as perfume. Inhale, analyze, step out. Back in the shop, she corked the mixture and noted the date, phase, and resonance. Full moon, barricades, June rebellion. Then she washed her hands of 2 centuries' soot and unlocked the front door for the world that did not know magic sat on its pulse points. That evening, as she arranged a display of autumn releases, the bell above the door rang. A man stood there, tall, raw-boned, tweed coat dusted with travel. He removed his hat with an anachronistic courtesy. "I'm looking for Elodie Moreau," his eyes startling gray, like the Seine before a storm, fixed on her with unnerving familiarity. "I'm Elodie. Lucien Duval, Sorbonne Department of History." He offered a card, his thumb smudged with printer's ink. "I'm researching archival perfumery. May I impose on your expertise?" Historians came often enough, usually hoping to date a scent mentioned in a Victorian diary. Elodie motioned him to the armchair near the bay window. "What period?" He hesitated, as if auditioning answers. "Belle Époque," he said at last. "Specifically, a fragrance referred to as Lune d'Or. It appears to have been made in secret and worn by only 1 woman." Elodie's chest tightened. She had smelled Lune d'Or once. She had never compounded it herself, yet on the night of a waxing crescent she had slipped into a cramped Montmartre atelier and found a red-haired girl twirling before a cracked mirror, ghost of bergamot and ambrette swirling about her. Lune d'Or smelled like a dare. "What does your research tell you about it?" she asked. Lucien pulled a notebook from his coat. "The only explicit mention occurs in letters between Geneviève Ray, a cabaret chanteuse, and Benoît Armand, a railway engineer. He died in a derailment at Melun, 1897. Geneviève disappeared a week later. The underlying tragedy interests me, of course, but so does the perfume's role." She writes, "When I wear your Lune d'Or, I hear the rails sing backwards, as if inviting us to rewrite time." He looked up. "That line keeps me awake. I suspect Lune d'Or wasn't merely metaphor." Elodie's first impulse was to deny everything, yet something about the pallor beneath his day-old stubble warned her he had already crossed more thresholds than he wished. She offered him a vial of vetiver water to reset his scent palate, a perfumer's courtesy and an excuse to think. "Are you certain you want what you're chasing?" she asked softly. Lucien sipped the vial's rim as though it were communion wine. "A month ago, I tracked Genevieve's last address. I brought the letters for company. Insomnia drove me to read them aloud. It was the night of the first quarter moon." He rubbed the bridge of his nose. The flat folded open. One moment I was on the second floor of a renovated walk-up. The next I stood in 1897. I saw Geneviève on stage at the Chat Noir. She sang a waltz that isn't in any archive. When I tried to approach her, the scene snapped. I came back with train soot under my fingernails. He opened his palm, faint black crescents welted the skin. Anyone else would call me mad. I thought a perfumer might understand. Her heartbeat drummed in her ears. She should send him away, but curiosity, that cruel jasmine, unfurled. "I'll show you our lab," she said. In the back room, she lifted the bowls. When the moon reaches specific phases, certain accords become porous. Scent is memory stored in volatile molecules. Align the volatility with lunar tides, and you create a hinge. Lucien traced the lip of the full moon bowl. Why does it open to other people's memories, not merely our own? "I don't know," she admitted. "Perhaps the past is communal. Perhaps we are all porous, too." He held her gaze. "Can you recreate Landor?" "I can try, but the question is not whether we can go back, it's what we'll do once we're there." He swallowed. Geneviève believed the derailment could be prevented. She planned to warn Benoit. If she failed, she vanished trying. "I have to know." Elodie inhaled slowly. Her father had drowned in the Seine when she was 8. More than once, she'd thought of crafting the scent of that afternoon to step onto the embankment and yank him from the current. She never tried, afraid temporal mercy might poison the river of time. But for Geneviève Rien Bedouet, the temptation returned, newly perfumed by Lucien's desperation. "Come back on the waxing gibbous," she said. "That's when bergamot binds best to ambrette. We have 1 week." During those days, Élodie worked like a woman possessed, rummaging antique markets for extinct ingredients. She bribed a retired train conductor for a sliver of creosote-soaked rail tie, reasoning that the smell of iron and pitch might anchor them near the tracks at Melun. She found powdered iris aged a century in a shuttered convent. Each night she left the lab at dawn, pockets bruised with new formulas. Yet every blend felt wrong. The notes behaved in the beaker but collapsed upon cooling, like an aria sung flat. By Friday, her skin reeked of so many trials she could no longer separate failures from breath. Close to midnight, frustrated, she poured a handful of muskrat castoreum into the sink. The smell of feral tannin clung to her throat. She thought of Geneviève rehearsing under gaslight, of Benoit leaning from a locomotive cab, both bright, both urgent. What was the soul of Lundor? Not decadence, not the catacomb earthiness of Iris. It was longing. She uncorked a vial of night-blooming cereus, an outlaw ingredient harvested 1 night per year when the cactus flowered like an open wound. She touched its oil to her wrist. Powdered orange blossom followed, then a dash of labdanum for the resinous hush between heartbeats. The mixture settled into something tremulous and hot like first love. She labeled it only with a half-drawn moon. At sunset on waxing gibbous, Lucien arrived. He carried a valise large enough for ambitions. Beneath his scholarly composure flickered voltage. Élodie lit a single beeswax candle. Electricity felt profane. "Smell this," she instructed, pressing a strip of blotter to his nose. Lucien's eyelids fluttered. "A station at dusk," he murmured. "Steam, fresh oranges, dust on sheet music. Élodie, it's her." He drew a sharp breath, and the lab folded away. Élodie found herself on a cobblestone platform, Stars shimmered above iron arches. The moon bulged near full. She tasted cinders. Beside her, Lucien clutched the valise. Passengers hurried past in Victorian dress. A callboy announced departure for Lyon, Avignon, Marseille, his cadence muffled by steam. Elodie realized with shuddering joy that the perfume had deposited them 30 minutes before the ill-fated 2110 to Milan. She smelled its engine idling down the track, coal, hot brass, and imminent calamity. Lucien scanned the platform, panic and purpose rustling in his eyes. Geneviève should be boarding soon. She planned to surprise Benoit en route. He strode forward. Elodie grabbed his sleeve. Anchor yourself. If we disrupt too much, we might never find the doorway home. We'll rewrite tragedy, he insisted. A whistle shrieked. The 2110 hissed. Elodie's heartbeat synced with the pistons. She let her nose guide her. Civet sweet hair oil, almond pastry, coal smoke, and there, cutting across the crowd, a tang of night-blooming cereus. Geneviève appeared, flame hair pinned under a jaunty straw boater. She laughed at something a porter said, sound bright as broken glass. On her wrist glinted a silver flask pendant, Lune d'Or. Lucien froze. Emotion converged on his face like weather fronts. Awe, terror, love. He moved toward her, but Elodie blocked him. Benoit to first, she whispered. If he doesn't board, the accident can't happen. They crisscrossed the concourse until Elodie spotted a man in mechanic's denim, wiping a sooty rag across his brow. Benoit Armand. Handsome in a practical way, jaw smudged with grease. He waited near the locomotive, chatting with crew. Elodie inhaled. If benevolence had an odor, it was the mild cedar of his pipe tobacco. She liked him instantly. Go, she urged Lucien. Tell him something, anything, that stops him. Lucien approached, mouth rehearsing sentences, yet when Benoit turned, Lucien faltered. The historian's authority belonged to lecture halls, not rail yards. He stammered, accident, danger. Tonight. Benoit's eyebrows knitted. I appreciate your concern, monsieur, but we've inspected the boilers. Lucien switched tactics, pressing francs into Benoit's hand. Take the night off. Spend time with Geneviève. Benoit studied the stranger. You know my fiancé. Before Lucien could answer, a conductor shouted, All aboard! Geneviève appeared waving, and Benoit, confusion softening into affection, stepped toward her. The two embraced. For a heartbeat, Elodie allowed herself to hope. Then Geneviève whispered something, gesturing toward the locomotive. Benoit shook his head, indicating the francs, but she laughed, tucking the bills into his pocket as if they were love notes. She traced a circle on his chest with a finger prémaissance, then all but pushed him toward his post. Car wheels clanged. Time accelerated. Lucien's face crumpled. Elodie made a decision so quickly it felt like instinct. She darted to Geneviève. Mademoiselle Ray, she said in fluently clipped Belle Epoque French, your perfume flask is cracked. Geneviève paused, eyes narrowing in suspicion. Elodie produced a handkerchief. Oil is evaporating. Let me fix the clasp. Who are you? Geneviève asked, protective hand at her throat. A perfumer, Elodie answered, both true and evasive. She opened the flask, pretending to inspect the hinge, and subtly uncorked her own vial of half-moon blend. Cereus and labdanum spiraled into the air. Genevieve's pupils dilated as though memory itself perfused her bloodstream. What do you see? Elodie pressed. Geneviève gasped. Smoke, rails twisting like ribbon. I've been Benoit! She spun. In that moment, Lucien met Elodie's gaze across the steam. He understood. He grabbed Genevieve's arm, urgent but gentle. The rails won't sing backwards, he told her. They'll scream. Together they raced for the exit. Elodie ran to Benoit. Your fiancé is ill-go. Benoit leapt from the cab without hesitation. As his boots hit the platform, the whistle blew, final departure. The train groaned, wheels gnashing. Benoit only half heard, his attention locked on Genevieve, collapsing against Lucien near a baggage cart. He sprinted to her. Elodie's lungs burned. She chased them through torchlit arches until they reached a courtyard abandoned except for milk cans and rubble. Genevieve bent double, retching coal-tainted air. What happened? Benoit demanded. Genevieve clutched him. I saw fire, bones of metal. Tears streaked ash across her cheeks. Benoit wrapped her in his arms. Lucien stepped back, allowing history to rewrite itself around them. Somewhere down the line, the 2110 thundered into the night minus an engineer. Elodie imagined passengers grumbling at the delay, unaware that disaster had just been subtracted from their futures. The quiet settled, broken only by Benoit's soft assurances. Street lamps flickered. The moon, all but full, hovered like freshly poured cream. Lucien faced Elodie, emotions warring, triumph, relief, disbelief. Did we do it? We disrupted a beam, she said. Whether the building stands, I can't promise. But she felt lighter, as though the city had exhaled a century-long sigh. Genevieve disengaged from Benoit, wiping her eyes. She regarded Elodie and Lucien as one might regard benevolent demons. I owe you everything. But I don't understand. Neither do we, Lucien confessed. Just promise you'll keep him off trains tonight. Benoit frowned. My assignment? Let someone else take it, Genevieve pleaded. Come hear me sing. He cupped her face, nodding. For you, the moon. Lucien's breath hitched at the phrase from her letter. Elodie touched his arm, time to go. She felt the vial's scent thinning, molecules burnt by weight of events. Close your eyes, she told him. The station dissolved. Elodie found herself back in the lab, knees weak. Lucien staggered against a shelf, knocking over tinctures. Rosewater shattered, drenching the floor with bruised petals. They stared at each other, savoring the familiarity of fluorescent lights and the hum of a refrigerator. Finally, Lucien laughed, short and amazed. Check the records. Did the derailment still occur? Elodie opened her laptop, hands trembling. She searched Melun derailment 1897. Results populated in less than a second. References to a minor scheduling disruption, but no deaths, no tragedy. Benoit Armand later credited with designing a safer coupling mechanism. Geneviève Ray appeared in microphone reviews until 1931, lauded for her lyric soprano and philanthropic concerts for railway widows. She died in Montreux at 81. Lucien covered his mouth, eyes wet. We did it, he whispered. Elodie's own vision blurred. But beneath victory lurked questions. Did they truly change time, or merely sidestep into a branch where tragedy never occurred? What of the original timeline? Did it still play somewhere, mournfully intact? She shut the laptop containing Pandora. The hour neared dawn. Streetlights withdrew. Lucien exhaled. The portals close until the next lunar cycle, yes? Longer, she said. After an interference this large, the doorway will flinch. We must let it rest. He nodded, but hunger for possibility already ignited behind his eyes. There are other tragedies. Elodie tensed. We can't become custodians of every sorrow. Time is delicate. He approached her workbench, fingertips hovering above vials like a pianist sampling keys. But if we can save even one more, would you erase every song written from the sorrow we prevented? She countered. Every child born of widows' second marriages? History isn't a ledger you can simply edit. Lucien deflated, yet the ember remained. Elodie recognized the compulsion. She felt it too. Magic canners away with morality tied to its saddle. She poured coffee into chipped mugs. A compromise. We research before we act. Each shift requires consensus. To Sevener us and, if possible, those involved. No secret rescues. He accepted the terms in silence, then offered a faint smile. A historical ethics committee of two. She raised her mug. to responsibility. They drank. The bitterness steadied them. Before he left, Lucien hesitated at the doorway. Thank you. For what? For proving memory isn't stone, that history can blossom if we're gentle. Elodie touched the window glass, watching him vanish into morning crowds. She sensed her life pivoting, not into romance, though the possibility shimmered, but into shared guardianship of something volatile and luminous. 3 nights later, she dreamed of the Seine, water rippling with copper-green moon. She woke crying, desire fierce to craft the scent of that lost afternoon and stand upon Pont Neuf with 8-year-old feet, scream a warning to the man leaning too far to retrieve a floating hat. But she did not rise. Instead, she wrote the dream in the almanac, folded the page, and went back to sleep. Responsibility, like perfume, lingers. Weeks passed. Maison Moreau debuted a fragrance titled Resonance. Reviewers detected in it an impossible nostalgia, as though recalling a future memory. Sales soared. Elodie hired new apprentices, moved her father's old photograph to a place of honor above the till, and learned to breathe amid competing rhythms of regret and wonder. On the night of the next full moon, she expected Lucien to arrive with fresh tragedy in mind. Instead, he brought flowers and a slim folder. No alterations tonight, he said. I thought we might simply walk. They wandered the Pont des Arts, Paris a-glitter, Resonance clinging to their scarves. Lucien opened the folder, scans of Genevieve's later correspondence. One letter recounted a concert she performed to raise funds for safer rail switching. Inspired by a stranger's warning on a moonlit platform, Elodie closed her eyes, letting the cool breeze braid past and present, lives refracted, sometimes redeemed, by transient interventions, a scent carried on lunar breath. Do you regret it? She asked. Not tonight, he said. They leaned over the railing. Somewhere below, the river spoke a language of eddies and undertow, indifferent yet intimate, like memory itself. Elodie inhaled. Wet stone, diesel from a passing barge, a trace of Lucien's aftershave. Every inhale a vow to steward, not conquer, the labyrinth of time. The moon climbed higher. She imagined bowls in her workshop, glowing like watchful eyes. She would return to them, and so would he, armed with questions history couldn't frame. But for now, she let dusk settle on her shoulders, a shawl woven from the knowledge that timelines like perfumes are most beautiful when allowed to breathe.